Jake Patterson stood in front of the massive glass doors and took a deep breath. The Galactic Youth Integration Academy looked nothing like his school back on Earth. The building seemed to stretch into the clouds, made of materials that shifted colors in the sunlight. Strange symbols glowed along the walls, and he could hear sounds he had never heard before coming from inside. His hands felt sweaty as he gripped his backpack straps. He was the first human student ever to attend this school. Earth had only made contact with alien civilizations 6 months ago, and now here he was, a 12-year-old kid from Denver, about to walk into a school filled with creatures from across the galaxy. The doors slid open with a soft hiss. Jake stepped inside and immediately felt dozens of eyes turn toward him. The entrance hall was enormous, with students of all shapes and sizes moving between classes. Some walked on 2 legs like him, others on 4 or even 6. Some had fur, others had scales, and a few seemed to be made of something that looked like living crystal. A tall figure approached him. It was reptilian, covered in dark green scales with bright orange patterns running down its spine. The creature had large yellow eyes with vertical pupils, and when it opened its mouth to speak, Jake saw rows of sharp, gleaming fangs. "You must be the human," the creature said. Its voice was surprisingly friendly, though it had a slight hissing quality. "I am Zrix. I have been assigned to show you around today." Jake tried to smile, though he felt nervous. "Hi, I'm Jake. Nice to meet you." Zrix tilted his head, studying Jake carefully. His eyes moved from Jake's face down to his hands, then back up again. A confused expression crossed his features. "I have a question," Zrix said slowly. "Where are your fangs?" Jake blinked. "My... what?" "Your fangs. Your teeth for hunting and defense." Zrix opened his mouth wider, showing off his impressive set of sharp teeth. "Where are they?" Jake opened his own mouth, showing his flat molars and relatively small canines. These are my teeth. We don't really have fangs." Zrix leaned closer, peering into Jake's mouth with genuine confusion. "But how do you eat meat? How do you defend yourself?" By now, other students had started to gather around. A creature covered in purple fur, with 6 arms pointed at Jake's hands. "And where are your claws?" she asked. "Your hands are so soft." Jake looked down at his own hands. He had never thought about them as soft before, but compared to the sharp talons on the purple creature's fingers, he supposed they were. A student who looked like a walking insect, with a hard shell covering its body, chimed in. "No armor plating either. How did your species survive? What planet are you from?" "Earth," Jake said, feeling overwhelmed. "It's a pretty normal planet, I think. We have predators and stuff, but humans are at the top of the food chain." This statement caused a wave of clicking, hissing, and other sounds that Jake assumed was alien laughter. Zrix shook his head in disbelief. "But you have no natural weapons. No fangs, no claws, no venom, no armor. You are not even very large or fast-looking. How is this possible?" Jake felt his face turn red. He had never thought about it before. Back on Earth, being human was just normal. But here, surrounded by creatures with obvious natural defenses and weapons, he suddenly felt very vulnerable and very strange. "I don't know," Jake admitted. "We just are. We use tools and stuff." "Tools?" Zrix seemed even more confused. "But tools are what you make when you already have the ability to make them. How did you survive long enough to make tools without natural weapons?" Before Jake could attempt an answer, a new voice spoke up. "That is an excellent question, young Zrix." An elderly alien approached the group. He walked on 2 legs and had silver skin that seemed to shimmer. He wore flowing robes marked with symbols of academic achievement. "I am Professor Venn," the silver-skinned alien said. "I teach galactic history and evolutionary biology." "Young. Human. What is your name?" "Jake Patterson, sir," Jake replied. Professor Venn nodded slowly. "Jake Patterson. You have presented us with a fascinating puzzle. In all my years of studying species across the galaxy, I have never encountered a dominant species with so few natural advantages. He paused, his dark eyes studying Jake with interest. Every species that has reached the stars has done so because they first conquered their home world. And every one of them had natural weapons or defenses that allowed them to do so. Except, it seems, humans. Jake did not know what to say. He felt like he was being examined under a microscope. Professor Venn smiled, which Jake noticed involved no teeth at all. This will make an excellent research project. Jake Patterson, I would like you to prepare a presentation for the Academy. You will explain how humanity became the dominant species on Earth without the natural advantages that every other known species possesses. Jake's eyes widened. A presentation? In front of everyone? I mean, indeed. You have 4 weeks to prepare. Use our library. Access Earth's databases. Consult with whomever you wish. I want you to answer the question that young Zrix asked. Where are your fangs? And more importantly, why don't you need them? The professor turned to address the gathered students. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Never assume that strength only comes in the forms you recognize. The universe is full of surprises, and humanity appears to be one of them. As Professor Venn walked away, the other students began to disperse, though many continued to stare at Jake with curious expressions. Zrix remained, looking at Jake with a mixture of confusion and interest. I did not mean to offend you, Zrix said quietly. I was. The Academy Library was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It stretched across 3 floors, with sections dedicated to different galactic quadrants and species. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing information in hundreds of languages. The ceiling appeared transparent, revealing the stars above, though Jake knew it was actually deep underground for protection. Zrix had been true to his word and accompanied Jake to the library after showing him his quarters. Now, they sat at a curved table that adjusted its height automatically to accommodate different body types. Jake had a datapad in front of him, connected to Earth's historical archives. So where do we start? Zrix asked, leaning forward with interest. His tail swished behind him. Something Jake had learned meant he was excited or curious. Jake scrolled through the options on his screen. I guess we start at the beginning. How humans evolved. He pulled up a holographic display showing early human ancestors. The image rotated slowly, showing a creature that walked slightly hunched, with longer arms, and a face that jutted forward, more than modern humans. Zrix studied it carefully. They look weak. Even weaker than you. Jake might have been offended, but he was starting to understand that Zrix was just being honest. In a galaxy full of armored, clawed, and fanged species, humans did look weak. Yeah, they were not very strong, Jake agreed. But look at this. He pulled up another file. This is about persistence hunting. The hologram changed to show a group of early humans on the African savanna. They were following a large antelope-like creature. The humans were not running fast, just jogging at a steady pace. The antelope would sprint away, then stop to rest. The humans would catch up, and the antelope would run again. What are they doing? Zrix asked, confused. Why don't they just give up? They cannot catch it. Jake let the simulation play. Hours passed in fast forward. The antelope kept running and stopping, running and stopping. Its tongue hung out, and its movements became sluggish. The humans never stopped jogging. Finally, the antelope collapsed from exhaustion, and the humans caught up to it. They ran it to death, Jake said quietly. Humans can sweat. We cool down while we run. Most animals can't do that. They have to stop and pant to cool off. But humans just keep going. Zrix's eyes widened. That is terrifying. You just chase prey until it dies from exhaustion? Not anymore, Jake said quickly. But yeah, that's what our ancestors did. We're really good at running long distances, better than almost any other animal on Earth. He pulled up more data. See, humans have these special tendons in our legs and feet. We have sweat glands all over our bodies. Our bodies are designed for endurance, not speed. Zrix sat back, processing this information. So, humans are ambush predators? Not exactly. We're persistent predators. Over the next few days, Jake spent every free moment in the library. He discovered facts about humans he had never really thought about before. He learned that human brains used 20% of the body's energy, far more than most species. He found out that humans were among the best throwers in the entire galaxy. Look at this. Jake showed Zrix excitedly one afternoon. He had pulled up a video of a human baseball pitcher. Humans can throw objects with incredible accuracy and force. No other Earth species can do this like we can. The video showed the baseball leaving the pitcher's hand at over 90 miles per hour, hitting a target the size of a dinner plate from 60 feet away. Zrix watched in silence. Your species weaponized throwing? I guess so. Our ancestors threw rocks and spears to hunt. Our shoulders, our eyes, our brains, they all work together to calculate trajectory and force. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. Jake found more information about human evolution. Opposable thumbs that could grip tools. Eyes positioned for depth perception. The ability to walk upright, freeing hands for carrying and using objects. Each piece of the puzzle started to fit together. But what really fascinated Jake was what he learned about human intelligence and social behavior. He discovered that humans were not just smart as individuals, but incredibly effective in groups. They developed complex language, passed knowledge between generations, and worked together in ways that amplified their abilities. One evening, Jake was so absorbed in his research that he did not notice Professor Venn approach his table. "Making progress, young Jake?" the professor asked. Jake jumped slightly, then nodded. "Yes, sir. I'm learning a lot. But I'm also realizing how much I didn't know about my own species." Professor Venn settled into a chair across from him. "That is often the way. We take our own existence for granted. Tell me, what have you discovered?" Jake organized his thoughts. Humans evolved to be endurance hunters. We can run for hours without stopping. We can throw things with incredible accuracy. We have hands that can grip and manipulate tools. We're really smart, and we work together really well. But, Professor Venn prompted, but I still don't understand how all of that was enough. Earth has lions, bears, crocodiles, all these predators with fangs and claws. How did my ancestors survive against those? Professor Venn smiled. Perhaps because your ancestors did not try to outfang the fanged or outclaw the clawed. Perhaps they survived by doing something entirely different. Jake frowned, thinking, "What do you mean?" "Continue your research. I think you will find the answer." Professor Venn stood to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Jake? You should know that news has reached us. A human exploration vessel has experienced engine failure near our star system. They have made an emergency landing on one of the nearby moons." Jake's heart jumped. "Are they okay? For now." "The moon has a breathable atmosphere, but it also has dangerous fauna. Rescue teams are being organized. I thought you might want to know. Thank you for watching. I more than ate have we haven't purred it. Crediting." After the professor left, Jake sat staring at his data pad. Humans were stranded on a hostile moon with dangerous animals. Just like his ancestors had been stranded on a hostile Earth with dangerous animals. Maybe, he thought, he was about to see exactly how humans survived when they had no fangs or claws. He pulled up information about the rescue mission. The stranded crew consisted of 12 humans from the exploration ship Liberty Dawn. The moon they had crashed on was called Therax Prime, and it was home to pack-hunting predators that could grow up to 15 feet long. Jake could barely focus on his regular classes over the next 2 days. All he could think about was the stranded human crew on Therax Prime. The academy had set up an observation room where students could watch the rescue operation on large displays. During breaks, Jake found himself drawn there, watching the updates. The stranded humans had crashed in a heavily forested region of the moon. Their ship was damaged beyond repair, but they had survived the landing. Rescue ships were on their way, but it would take 3 days to arrive due to the distance and the need to navigate through an asteroid field. 3 days alone, on a moon with pack-hunting predators, Zrix found Jake in the observation room on the second day. Several other students were there too, watching the displays with interest. The feed showed aerial views of the crash site and thermal scans of the surrounding area. "Any news?" Zrix asked, settling down beside Jake. "They're alive and setting up some kind of camp," Jake said, pointing at the screen. "The rescue teams are trying to reach them, but the Therax predators are really aggressive. They keep attacking the rescue ships when they try to land." On the screen, a Korthian rescue vessel attempted to descend near the crash site. Almost immediately, several large shapes burst from the forest. The Therax predators were massive, reptilian creatures with powerful legs and jaws full of teeth. They leaped at the ship, forcing it to pull back up. "The predators are very territorial," explained a student watching nearby. She was a Velkari, covered in thin spines. "They attack anything that enters their hunting grounds. The rescue teams cannot land safely." Jake watched the humans on the thermal display. Instead of huddling inside their wrecked ship, they were moving around outside. "What are they doing?" "What?" The view switched to a closer camera on a drone. Jake leaned forward, his eyes widening. The human crew was gathering materials from the forest. They were breaking branches, collecting stones, and clearing an area around their ship. "They are making weapons," Zrix said, surprised. "Look, those are spears." He was right. The humans had sharpened long branches into pointed spears. They were lashing stones to other branches, creating crude axes and hammers. One crew member was arranging rocks in a circle. "Is that a fire pit?" Jake asked. Within minutes, the humans had fire. Smoke rose from their camp, and Jake could see them working by the light of the flames as the moon's sun set. They were not hiding. They were not waiting passively for rescue. They were preparing. Professor Venn entered the observation room, followed by several other instructors. "Ah, I thought I might find you here, Jake." "Professor, why aren't they staying in the ship?" Jake asked. "Wouldn't they be safer inside?" "An excellent question. Why don't we find out?" Professor Venn activated a communication channel. "This is Professor Venn from the Galactic Academy. We have established a link with the stranded vessel. Can you hear us?" A voice crackled through the speakers. "This is Commander Peter Hayes of the Liberty Dawn. We read you." "Professor, Commander, we have students observing your situation. One of them, a young human, asks why you are not sheltering inside your vessel." There was a pause, then a tired laugh. "The ship's hull is breached in 3 places. If we stay inside, we're trapped if those predators decide to investigate. Out here, we have room to move, and we can see them coming." "Fascinating," Professor Venn said. "And you are creating weapons?" "Yes, sir. We've got spears, fire, and we're setting up a defensive perimeter. These predators are pack hunters, right? We've dealt with pack hunters before." Zrix looked at Jake. "He sounds calm." "Why is he calm?" Jake thought about his research. "Because this is what humans do. We adapt." Over the next day, the students watched the humans work. They dug a shallow trench around their camp and filled it with sharpened stakes. They built a wall from logs and debris. They took turns keeping watch, sleeping in shifts. And when the Therax predators came, the humans were ready. The first attack happened on the second night. 6 predators emerged from the forest, moving low and fast. The watching students gasped, expecting the worst. But the humans did not panic. They formed a defensive line, spears ready. One of them threw a burning branch at the closest predator. The creature recoiled from the fire. Another human threw a rock with incredible force, striking a predator in the head. It yelped and fell back. The predators circled, looking for weakness. The humans rotated, keeping their spears pointed outward. One predator tried to leap the defensive trench, but landed on the sharpened stakes. Its howl of pain sent the others retreating into the darkness. The observation room was silent. Then one of the Corthian students spoke up. They fought off 6 thorax predators. With sticks and rocks. And fire, Jake added. And teamwork. They worked together perfectly. Professor Venn nodded slowly. Indeed. They did not try to overpower the predators. They made the predators decide that attacking was not worth the cost. The next day, something even more interesting happened. The humans left their camp. Not all of them, but 3 crew members ventured into the forest. They carried spears and moved carefully, but they were not running away. They were hunting. What are they doing? Zrix asked, alarmed. That is dangerous. Jake watched the thermal display. The 3 humans were tracking something, moving slowly and deliberately. I think they're getting food and learning about the area. The humans tracked a smaller creature through the forest. Unlike the thorax predators, they did not rush. They followed it patiently, forcing it toward a clearing where one of the humans waited. When the creature entered the clearing, the human threw a spear with perfect accuracy. The creature fell. They are hunting the hunters, Professor Venn said quietly. Remarkable. But what impressed everyone most happened later that day. The humans had mapped the area around their camp. They had identified thorax dens and hunting paths. They had learned the predators' patterns, and they used that knowledge to set up an ambush. When a thorax pack approached the camp that evening, the humans were waiting on elevated platforms they had built in the trees. As the predators moved forward, the humans dropped large rocks on them from above. Then they threw spears. The predators, confused and injured, retreated. One of the human crew members, a woman named Lisa Morgan, spoke to the observation drone. Tell whoever is watching that we're doing fine. We've figured these things out. They're tough, but they're predictable. We'll be ready when rescue arrives. Zrix turned to Jake. Your species is insane. Jake shook his head. No, we're just human. This is what we do. We don't have claws, so we make spears. We don't have armor, so we make walls. We don't have fangs, so we use our brains. The rescue ships finally arrived on the 3rd day. By then, the human camp was a fortified position, with clear sight lines, defensive barriers, and even a crude map of the local predator territories. The humans had not just survived, they had thrived. Commander Hayes greeted the rescue team with a smile. Thanks for coming. But we had things under control. Actually, if you have a moment, we've cataloged 17 species of local fauna and mapped about 5 square kilometers. Thought you might want the data. The rescued humans were brought to the academy for medical checks and debriefing. Jake waited outside the medical bay, nervous but excited. When Lisa Morgan emerged, she saw him and smiled. You must be Jake. Dad told me about you. Earth's first student here. Jake nodded. I watched what you guys did down there. It was amazing, Lisa laughed. It was survival. Nothing fancy. That's what makes it amazing, Jake said. You had no weapons, no backup, nothing but what you could make. And you won. Lisa's expression turned serious. We didn't win, Jake. We adapted. That's the human advantage. We don't have to be the strongest or fastest or most dangerous. We just have to be stubborn enough to figure out how to survive. And humans are very stuth. The Academy auditorium was packed. Jake stood backstage, his heart pounding as he heard the murmur of hundreds of students and teachers taking their seats. He had given presentations before back on Earth, but never to an audience of aliens from across the galaxy. Never about something this important. Zrix appeared beside him, placing a clawed hand on his shoulder. You will do well. I have seen your preparation. Your presentation is strong. Thanks, Jake said, taking a deep breath. I'm just nervous. What if they don't understand? What if I can't explain it right? Then you will be very human, Zrix said with what Jake now recognized as a smile. Professor Venn poked his silver head through the curtain. Are you ready, Jake? Jake nodded, even though his stomach felt like it was full of butterflies. As ready as I'll ever be. Good. Remember, you are not just speaking for yourself. You are helping us all understand humanity's place in the galaxy. This is important work. The lights dimmed in the auditorium, and Professor Venn walked onto the stage. Students and faculty, today we have a unique presentation. Young Jake Patterson, our first human student, will answer the question that has fascinated us all. Since his arrival, how did humanity become dominant on their world without the natural weapons that every other known species possesses? Jake, please come forward. Jake walked onto the stage, his legs feeling shaky. The auditorium was enormous, filled with beings of every shape and size. Some had multiple eyes watching him. Others had sensory organs he could not even identify. All of them were focused on him. He reached the podium where his datapad was waiting. Behind him, a massive holographic display hummed to life. Thank you, Professor Venn, Jake began, his voice sounding small at first. He cleared his throat and spoke louder. 4 weeks ago, my friend Zrix asked me a simple question. Where are your fangs? I didn't have a good answer then. But now, I do. He activated the first display. It showed an image of a human hand next to a Corthian claw, a Valkyrie spine, and a thorax fang. Every species in this room evolved natural weapons or defenses. You have claws, fangs, armor, venom, or other advantages that helped your ancestors survive. Our teeth are flat, our nails are soft, our skin tears easily. By every measure, we should have been prey, not predators. He paused, looking out at the audience. So what happened? Why are humans here, traveling between stars? Instead of extinct, the display changed to show early human ancestors on the African savanna. The answer starts with endurance. Humans evolved to run. Not fast, but far. Very far. He played the persistence hunting video he had shown Zrix weeks ago. The audience watched in silence as the humans chased the antelope for hours until it collapsed. Humans can sweat, Jake explained. We cool down while we move. Most Earth animals cannot do this. They have to stop and rest. But humans just keep going. Our ancestors would chase prey until it died from exhaustion. We call it persistence hunting. And it is terrifying if you think about it. A ripple of uneasy sounds moved through the audience. Jake could see them understanding for the first time that endurance could be a weapon. But running was not enough, Jake continued. Humans also evolved to throw. The display showed the baseball pitcher he had found in his research. The ball left the pitcher's hand at over 90 miles per hour, crossing the distance in less than a second and hitting a target smaller than Jake's fist. No other Earth species can throw like humans. Our shoulders, our eyes, our brains, they all work together to calculate distance, wind, and force in an instant. Early humans threw rocks to hunt. Later, we threw spears. We killed prey and defended ourselves from predators by hitting them from a distance. We didn't need to be stronger than a lion. We just needed to hit it with a rock before it got close. Jake demonstrated by picking up a small ball from the podium. In one smooth motion, he threw it across the auditorium, hitting a target on the far wall. The accuracy startled many in the audience. Humans weaponized distance, Jake said. We turned our entire environment into ammunition. The display shifted to show human hands gripping various tools. We also evolved hands that could grip and manipulate objects. Opposable thumbs let us create tools, build shelters, and make weapons. We didn't grow claws because we made knives. We didn't grow armor because we made clothes and walls. He pulled up images of early human settlements. Simple huts, stone tools, fire pits. And we did something else that was crucial. The display showed a group of humans hunting together, sharing food, protecting children. Human children take years to grow up. They're helpless compared to other species young. But during those years, they learn. They watch adults. They ask questions. They practice skills. Humans pass knowledge from one generation to the next through teaching and language. Jake activated another video. This one showed wolves hunting in a pack. Other species cooperate too. But human cooperation is different. We don't just work together by instinct. We plan. We strategize. We assign roles. We communicate complex ideas. He looked out at the audience. Every advantage I've mentioned, endurance, throwing, tool use, cooperation, they're all good. But individually, they might not have been enough. What made humans truly dominant was that we combined all of these advantages together. The display showed the footage from Thorax Prime. The audience leaned forward, many of them having heard about the rescue, but not seen the details. 3 days ago, 12 humans were stranded on a hostile moon. They had no weapons, no supplies, nothing but the wreckage of their ship. The moon was home to pack-hunting predators that weigh over 1,000 pounds and have teeth as long as my hand. The footage played, showing the humans building their camp, making spears, starting fire. They didn't hide. They didn't wait. Helplessly. They adapted. The video showed the first predator attack, with the humans defending themselves with fire and spears. Gasps and clicks of surprise came from the audience. They used endurance to work long hours building defenses. They used throwing to attack from distance. They used tools to make weapons from nothing. They used cooperation to defend together and hunt effectively. And most importantly, they used intelligence to learn about the predators and adapt their tactics. The video showed the ambush in the trees, with humans dropping rocks on the predators from above. The audience was completely silent now. By the time rescue arrived, the humans had not just survived. They had mapped the area, cataloged local species, and established a fortified position. They turned a survival situation into a research opportunity. Jake paused, letting that sink in. This is what humans do. We don't need fangs because we make spears. We don't need claws because we make tools. We don't need armor because we make shelters. We don't need venom because we have fire, weapons, and tactics. The display showed images of human history. Ancient tribes, medieval cities, industrial societies, and finally, spaceships. Humans evolved to adapt. Every other species in the galaxy evolved specific solutions to specific problems. You evolved fangs to eat meat, armor to survive attacks, claws to fight predators. But humans evolved general intelligence and the ability to create solutions for any problem. He pulled up a comparison chart showing different species and their evolutionary advantages. Each of you is specialized and powerful in your specialization. But humans are generalists. We can live in deserts, jungles, mountains, Arctic tundra. We can eat almost anything. We can survive in environments that would kill most species, not because we're naturally adapted to those environments, but because we adapt ourselves to them. Jake's voice grew stronger as he reached his conclusion. You asked where our fangs are. The answer is, we don't have fangs because we didn't need them. We had something better. We had endurance that let us outlast any predator. We had throwing that let us strike from safety. We had hands that let us remake our world. We had cooperation that made us stronger, together. And we had intelligence that let us solve any problem. The display showed a final image. A human hand holding a tool, with stars in the background. Every species here evolved weapons. Humans evolved the ability to create any weapon we needed. Every species here evolved defenses. Humans evolved the ability to defend against any threat. Every species here evolved to survive. Humans evolved to thrive anywhere. The days following Jake's presentation were strange and exciting. Students who had barely noticed him before now stopped him in the hallways to ask questions. Teachers invited him to speak in their classes. Even the academy director, a towering being made of what looked like living stone, congratulated him on his work. But the most significant change came in the form of a new announcement. Professor Venn gathered Jake and several other students in his office 3 days after the presentation. "The Galactic Council has been following events here with interest," Professor Venn said, settling into his chair. Jake's presentation, combined with the remarkable survival of the Liberty Dawn crew, has prompted them to reconsider humanity's potential role in galactic affairs. Jake felt his heart beat faster. What does that mean? It means that the Council is impressed. Very impressed. Professor Venn pulled up a holographic display showing official-looking documents. They are accelerating Earth's integration process and have requested that we develop new curriculum here at the Academy. Curriculum focused on human adaptive strategies. Zrix, who sat beside Jake, made a pleased clicking sound. "That is wonderful news." "Indeed," Professor Venn agreed. "And Jake, they have requested that you assist in developing this curriculum, along with Commander Hayes and his crew." Jake's eyes widened. "Me? But I'm just a student. I'm 12 years old. You are young, yes. But you have demonstrated something valuable. You can explain human thinking to non-humans. That is a rare skill, Jake. One that will become increasingly important as our species interact more closely." Over the next week, Jake found himself in meetings with Commander Hayes, Lisa Morgan, and several other crew members from the Liberty Dawn. Together with Professor Venn and other faculty, they began developing a course about human survival strategies. "The key thing to understand," Commander Hayes explained during one planning session, "is that humans don't think of obstacles as permanent. We think of them as problems to solve." They were sitting in a conference room, surrounded by holographic displays showing various scenarios. Jake was taking notes on his data pad, still somewhat amazed that adults were asking for his input. Lisa added, "When we crashed on Thorax Prime, we didn't focus on what we couldn't do. We focused on what we could do with what we had. That's the human approach." Professor Venn nodded thoughtfully. "This is what fascinates the Council. Most species, when faced with a problem beyond their natural abilities, will either avoid it or call for specialized help. Humans seem to simply create the ability they need. Because we have to," Jake said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He felt his face flush, but continued. "I mean, we don't have any other choice. We can't outrun most predators, so we had to learn to outlast them. We can't outfight most predators, so we had to learn to outsmart them. Adaptation isn't just something we do. It's the only thing we can do." Commander Hayes smiled. "That's exactly right, Jake. And that's what you need to help us teach. Not just what humans do, but why we do it." The curriculum they developed was unlike anything the Academy had taught before. It included modules on persistence, on improvised tool creation, on tactical thinking, on endurance challenges, and on creative problem solving. But more than that, it included exercises designed to help non-human students think like humans. The first test class included Zrix and about 20 other students from various species. Jake watched nervously as Professor Venn explained the first exercise. "You will be divided into teams," the professor said. "Each team will be given a survival scenario with limited resources. Your goal is not just to survive, but to thrive, to turn your situation from desperate to manageable, using only what is available to you." Zrix was placed on a team with 3 other students. A Velkari named Shira, a crystalline being called Kren, and a small, furry creature named Pip. Their scenario was challenging. Stranded on a cold planet, with no shelter, and limited food, Jake observed as the teams worked through their scenarios. At first, most teams struggled. They were used to using their natural advantages, or calling for help. The idea of creating solutions from nothing was foreign to them, but slowly, they began to adapt. Zrix's team figured out that they could use Kren's crystalline body to focus sunlight and create heat. Shira's spines could be used to hunt small prey. Pip's small size meant he could explore tight spaces for resources. And working together, they built a shelter from available materials. "This is difficult," Zrix admitted to Jake after the class. "My instinct is to fight or run, not to stop and think about creating solutions." "That's because you have claws and fangs," Jake said. "You evolved quick solutions to immediate threats. Humans evolved slow solutions to long-term survival." As word spread about the new curriculum, something unexpected happened. The rescued crew of the Liberty Dawn was invited to give demonstrations at the academy. They showed students how to create fire from friction, how to purify water, how to build shelters, how to navigate without technology. But the demonstration that drew the biggest crowd was about throwing. Commander Hayes stood in the academy's athletic field with a pile of small rocks. Students gathered around, curious and skeptical. "Throwing is something humans can do that most species can't," Hayes explained. "It requires the right shoulder structure, the right brain-eye coordination, and a lot of practice." He picked up a rock and threw it at a target 50 feet away. It hit dead center with a satisfying clang. The students murmured in surprise. "Ruser. Ruser." "Now, throwing isn't just about strength," Hayes continued. "It's about physics, timing, and practice. Let me show you." He called up Lisa, who was much smaller than her father. She picked up a rock and threw it at the same target. It hit just as accurately, despite her smaller size. "My daughter weighs half what I do," Hayes said, "but she can throw almost as far and just as accurately." That's because throwing is about technique more than strength. Humans start learning this as children, which is why we're so good at it. Several students wanted to try. Their attempts were clumsy at first, their bodies not designed for the motion. But Professor Venn watched with interest as they tried to adapt their own physiology to the task. "Even if they cannot throw as humans do," the professor told Jake, "they are learning to think about using their bodies in new ways. That is valuable." The academy also organized a special endurance event. Students could choose to participate in a long-distance run, with humans setting the pace. Jake signed up, along with Zrix and about 30 other students. The course was 10 kilometers through the academy's extensive grounds. When the event began, many of the faster species sprinted ahead. Jake and the other humans maintained a steady jog. "Should we not run faster?" Zrix asked. Loping alongside Jake, his powerful legs could easily outpace the human. But he stayed with Jake. "We're running at a sustainable pace," Jake explained, his breathing steady. "Watch what happens." After the first kilometer, some of the sprinters had to stop and rest. After 3 kilometers, more students had dropped out or slowed to a walk. The humans kept their steady pace, never stopping. By kilometer 7, Jake and the other humans had passed most of the field. Their breathing was heavier, and they were sweating. But they maintained their rhythm. Zrix was still with them, though his breathing was labored. "This is harder than I thought. You humans make it look easy." "It's not easy," Jake admitted. "But we're built for it. Our bodies cool as we run. We can keep this up for hours if we need to." Jake didn't win the race. A species with incredibly long legs finished first. But he came in 5th out of 43 participants, and he was the youngest competitor. More importantly, he never had to stop or walk. His steady pace had carried him through. After the race, as students recovered and compared notes, Jake overheard conversations that made him smile. I never understood how dangerous endurance could be, one student said. Humans just keep coming. You cannot escape something that never stops. Another student added, and they are always thinking while they move, planning their next action. It is unsettling. That evening, Jake sat with Zrix, Lisa, and a few other students in the academy's common area. They were relaxing after a long day, discussing the changes happening at the school. Your presentation changed things here, Lisa told Jake. The whole academy is thinking differently about what makes a species strong. I just answered a question, Jake said modestly. No. Zrix disagreed. You did more than that. You showed us that strength comes in forms we had never considered. That is important. My people, the Korthians, we pride ourselves on our natural weapons. But watching humans, I realize that natural weapons are limiting. You can only be as strong as your claws allow, but humans can be as strong as their imagination allows. Jake thought about that. I guess that's true. We're not limited by our biology. We're only limited by what we can think of and create. A small creature named Pip, who had been quietly listening, spoke up in a high-pitched voice. Do you think other species can learn to think like humans? I don't know, Jake admitted. But I think you can learn from how humans think. Take the best parts and adapt them to your own strengths. Lisa nodded. That's what the Academy is trying to do. Not make everyone human, but help everyone understand that there are different ways to solve problems. As the evening grew late and students headed to their quarters, Jake walked with Zrix through the quiet hallways. 3 months had passed since Jake's presentation. The Galactic Youth Integration Academy had changed in ways that surprised everyone. The new curriculum on human adaptive strategies had become one of the most popular courses at the school. Students from across the galaxy were learning to think differently about problem-solving and survival. But the biggest news came on a quiet morning when Professor Venn called Jake to his office. The old professor sat behind his desk, a holographic display showing an official-looking document with symbols Jake recognized as belonging to the Galactic Council. Sit down, Jake, Professor Venn said, gesturing to a chair. I have some important news to share with you. Jake sat, feeling nervous. Professor Venn's expression was hard to read. The Galactic Council has been observing humanity's integration into galactic society very closely. Your presentation, the Liberty Dawn incident, and the success of our new curriculum have all contributed to their assessment. Professor Venn paused. They have made a decision about Earth's status. Jake's heart pounded. What kind of decision? Earth is being invited to join the Galactic Council as a full member world. This is happening much faster than anyone anticipated. Usually, new species spend decades in observation status before receiving such an invitation. Jake felt dizzy. That's amazing. But why so fast? Professor Venn smiled. Because the Council has realized something important. Every member species of the Council brings unique strengths. The Korthians bring military might. The Velkari bring medical expertise. The Tarkosians bring diplomatic wisdom. And now, humans will bring adaptive problem-solving and survival expertise. He pulled up another display showing various galactic organizations. The Council faces many challenges. There are hostile environments to explore, dangerous territories to navigate, and complex problems to solve. They have decided that humanity's unique approach to challenges makes you valuable allies. But we're so new to all this, Jake protested. We just learned about aliens 6 months ago. True. But in those 6 months, humans have demonstrated abilities that impressed even the most skeptical council members. The Liberty Dawn crew survived on Thorax Prime, a moon that has killed trained explorers from other species. You developed a teaching method that is helping students across the galaxy think more creatively. These are not small achievements. Jake sat back, processing this information. What does this mean for me? For the Academy? For you, it means you will have a choice to make. Earth will need young people who understand both human and alien perspectives. You could continue your education here and eventually serve as a cultural liaison, or you could return to Earth and help prepare other humans for galactic integration. For the Academy, Professor Venn continued, it means we will be receiving many more human students. You will not be alone anymore. In fact, the Council has requested that we establish a permanent human studies department, and they have asked if you would be willing to help. Jake thought about everything that had happened since he arrived at the Academy. His friendship with Zrix, the research into human evolution, the presentation, working with Commander Hayes and Lisa. It had been challenging, but it had also been the most important thing he had ever done. I want to help, Jake said. I want to stay here and help other humans understand the galaxy, and help aliens understand humans. Professor Venn nodded approvingly. I hoped you would say that. Now, there is something else. The Council has invited you to attend a special ceremony on the capital world. They want to formally welcome humanity. And they have requested that you be part of the Earth delegation. Jake's eyes widened. Me? But shouldn't it be important adults? Scientists? Or leaders? You are important, Jake. You are the bridge between worlds. The Council specifically mentioned your presentation as a turning point in their understanding of humanity. They want you there. 2 weeks later, Jake found himself on a transport ship heading to Centris, the galactic capital world. He was part of a delegation that included Commander Hayes, Lisa Morgan, several Earth scientists, and diplomatic representatives. Zrix had been allowed to come as well, representing the Academy. The journey took 5 days. During that time, Jake spent hours looking out the observation windows at the stars. It still amazed him that just months ago, he thought Earth was alone in the universe. Now he was traveling to meet representatives from hundreds of worlds. Nervous? Lisa asked, sitting down beside him. Terrified, Jake admitted. What if I say something wrong? What if I embarrass Earth? Lisa laughed. You won't. You've already done the hard part. You showed them who humans are. Now you just have to be yourself. Fentful. 40 formants. Centris was unlike anything Jake had imagined. The planet itself was a marvel of engineering, with cities that floated in the sky and oceans that glowed with bioluminescent life. The council chambers were built into a massive crystal structure that rose from the planet's largest island. The ceremony was held in the Grand Assembly Hall, a room so large that it had its own weather system. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy gathered to witness Earth's formal welcome. Jake stood with the Earth delegation, feeling very small in such an enormous space. The ceremony began with speeches from various council members. They talked about the importance of diversity, the strength that comes from different perspectives, and the potential that humanity represented. Jake tried to pay attention, but his mind kept wandering to the prepared remarks he was supposed to give. Finally, it was Earth's turn. The senior diplomatic representative spoke first, thanking the council and promising cooperation. Then, Commander Hayes spoke about the spirit of exploration that drove humanity. And then, it was Jake's turn. He walked to the central platform, which rose smoothly to put him at speaking height. His voice was amplified throughout the vast hall. My name is Jake Patterson. 3 months ago, a friend asked me where my fangs were. It was a simple question, but it made me realize something important. Humans don't have fangs, claws, or armor. We don't have the natural advantages that other species have. And for most of my life, I never thought about that. I just assumed it was normal. He paused, looking out at the assembled beings. But it's not normal. It's unique. Humans survived and thrived on Earth, not because we were the strongest, or fastest, or most dangerous. We survived because we learned to adapt. We learned to turn our weaknesses into strengths. Jake pulled up a holographic display showing images from his presentation. Every species here evolved specific solutions to specific problems. Those solutions are powerful and effective, but humans evolved a general solution, the ability to create any solution we need. He showed the footage from Thorax Prime. When humans were stranded on a hostile world, they didn't wait for rescue. They adapted. They made weapons from debris, fire from friction, and shelter from wreckage. They turned a survival situation into an opportunity to learn. The hall was silent, thousands of beings watching and listening. Earth is honored to join the Galactic Council. We don't bring the military might of some species or the advanced technology of others. What we bring is our perspective. We bring the experience of a species that had to adapt or die, that had to think creatively to survive, that had to work together because we were too weak to survive alone. Jake looked directly at the council members seated at the front of the hall. You asked where our fangs are. They're in our persistence. They're in our ability to outlast any challenge. They're in our hands that can create any tool we need. They're in our minds that can solve any problem. They're in our cooperation that makes us stronger together. And they're in our refusal to give up, no matter how impossible the situation seems. He took a breath. Humans may not have physical fangs, but we have something that I think is even more powerful. We have the ability to adapt ourselves to the universe, rather than waiting for the universe to adapt to us. And we're excited to share that ability with all of you. The silence that followed felt endless. Then, slowly, the hall erupted in sounds of approval. Clapping, clicking, humming, and countless other expressions of appreciation filled the air. As Jake returned to the Earth delegation, Commander Hayes put a hand on his shoulder. After the ceremony, there was a reception where delegates from different worlds could meet informally. Jake found himself surrounded by beings who wanted to talk to him, to ask questions about humans, to share their own species stories. Zrix appeared through the crowd, navigating his way to Jake's side. I just told them the truth, Jake said. Truth is powerful, a new voice said. Jake turned to see a Tarkosian council member, her silver skin gleaming. Young human, your words today will echo for years to come. You have given the council much to consider. She leaned closer. Between you and me, there were members who doubted humanity's readiness. They thought your species was too young, too inexperienced, but you showed them something they had forgotten. That experience is not just about age. It is about perspective. And humanity has a perspective we desperately need. Over the following days, Jake attended meetings and discussions about Earth's integration. He learned that humans would be invited to participate in exploration missions, to help develop survival training programs, and to serve as advisors on challenging problems. Earth's unique evolutionary path had made humanity valuable in ways no one had anticipated. On the journey back to the academy, Jake sat with Lisa and Zrix in the observation lounge. They watched the stars stream by as the ship traveled through faster-than-light space. Do you think other humans will understand? Jake asked. When they come to the academy, when they join the galactic community, do you think they'll understand what makes us special? Lisa considered the question. Some will get it right away. Others will need time to realize it. Just like you did. But they'll figure it out. That's what humans do. We figure things out. Zrix made a thoughtful sound. I have been thinking about something. Before you came to the academy, Jake, I thought I understood strength. I thought it was about physical power, about natural weapons. But you taught me that real strength is about adaptability, about never giving up, about finding a way when there seems to be no way. You taught me something too, Jake said. I took being human for granted. I never appreciated what makes us unique. You asking about Fangs made me see my own species clearly. For the first time. Chinger, Jake. Then, we have both learned, Zrix said. That is what the academy is for, yes? To learn from each other. As the ship approached the academy's star system, Jake felt different than he had when he first arrived. He was still the same person, but he understood himself and his species better. He knew now that humans were not weak or vulnerable. They were adaptable and persistent. They were problem solvers and survivors. The academy appeared in the viewport, its buildings glowing against the darkness of space. Jake smiled, thinking about the human students who would arrive in the coming months. He would help them understand what he had learned. He would help them see that their lack of fangs was not a weakness. It was humanity's greatest strength. Zrix noticed Jake's expression. "What are you thinking about?" "The future," Jake said. "And how many more aliens are going to ask where our fangs are?" And you will keep answering the question," Zrix said. "Until the whole galaxy understands." Jake nodded. "Yeah, I guess I will. Because that was what humans did. They persisted. They adapted. They never gave up. And now, thanks to a simple question from an alien kid about fangs, the galaxy was beginning to understand why humanity had earned its place among the stars. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest or the most dangerous, but because they were the most stubbornly, creatively, persistently alive. "Thank you," Zrix said suddenly. "For what?" "For being patient with my questions. For teaching me about humans. I thought I was just asking about fangs and claws. But you showed me something much more important." "What's that?" Zrix paused, choosing his words carefully. "You showed me that the most dangerous predator is not the one with the biggest fangs. It is the one that can adapt those fangs into whatever it needs to survive." Jake looked out at the silent auditorium. "That's where our fangs are. They're in our minds, our persistence, our hands, and our ability to never give up." We weaponized adaptation itself. For a long moment, there was complete silence. Then, Professor Venn began to clap his hands together slowly. The sound echoed through the auditorium. Zrix joined in, and then more students. And soon the entire auditorium was filled with the sounds of appreciation in 100 different forms. Clapping, clicking, humming, and other sounds Jake could not identify. He had done it. He had answered the question. And judging by the reactions around him, he had given them all something to think about. Born. Jake thought about his presentation, now just a week away. He finally understood what he needed to say. Humans did not evolve fangs because they had evolved something better. They had evolved minds that could turn anything into a weapon, bodies that never gave up, and the ability to work together to overcome any challenge. Zrix appeared beside them. "Lisa Morgan. I am Zrix. I have been helping Jake with his research. I must ask, were you afraid down there?" Lisa considered the question. "Sure. I was afraid. Fear is useful. It keeps you alert. But fear doesn't stop humans. It just makes us think harder about how to survive." That night, Jake worked on his presentation with new understanding. He now had the perfect example to show everyone. The stranded crew of the Liberty Dawn had demonstrated exactly how humans conquered their world without fangs or claws. They adapted, they persisted, and they never gave up. Zrix appeared beside him. "I heard about the human ship. Are you worried?" Jake thought about everything he had learned over the past week, about persistence, about throwing, about human intelligence and cooperation. "No," he said slowly. "I think they'll be okay. Humans are good at surviving, but the thorax predators are very dangerous," Zrix insisted. Jake smiled slightly. "So were saber-toothed cats and dire wolves. Humans survived those too." He spent the rest of the evening researching Thorax Prime and comparing it to ancient Earth. The similarities were striking. Dangerous predators, harsh environment, limited resources. It was exactly the kind of world that would have killed off a species with no natural weapons, except humans had survived on a world just like it. And if his research was right, they had not just survived. They had thrived. Simply curious. Jake shook his head. "You didn't offend me. Honestly, I never thought about it before. It's a good question." Zrix's mouth curved into what Jake hoped was a smile. Come. Let me show you to your quarters. Then we can visit the library if you wish. I am curious to learn the answer too. As they walked through the corridors of the academy, Jake's mind raced. How did humans become dominant? Why didn't they have fangs or claws? What made humans special? He had 4 weeks to find out. And suddenly, he was very curious too. He looked at his soft hands, his fingernails that could barely scratch anything, and wondered what his ancestors had that all these aliens with their natural weapons did not. Whatever it was, it had been enough to take humanity from caves to spaceships. Jake smiled to himself. This was going to be interesting.